Hi everyone, I'm back. I took a small hiatus. I was extremely busy with school and adjusting to college life, but my name is Talia and I am back and here and excited and ready to teach you chemistry. I am now an incoming second year student at UCSD, majoring in chemistry and minoring in science education. Not only have I come back from this hiatus, but I have come back with a new and improved video style, and today we are going to go over phase changes in thermochemistry. So I hope that if you need some help with phase changes and problems relating to phase changes, you will join me in this video. And without further ado, let's get started. All right, so this new and improved video style goes like this. Instead of fully explaining the topic in detail and giving you a mini lecture, I'm just going to be doing a summary on the topic, and then we're going to be doing an example problem. So today we are going to talk about phase changes. So there are three main equations you will use for phase changes. When you are melting or freezing, you will be using the delta H is the H fusion times the mass. If you are boiling and condensing, you are going to be using the delta H equals H of vaporization times mass. And if you are changing temperature, you are going to be using what I like to call the MCAT equation, that delta H equals mass times the specific heat capacity times the change in temperature, which is going to be in Celsius. The heat of fusion is the heat required to melt 1 gram of a substance. The heat of vaporization is the amount of heat required to boil 1 gram of a substance. And the specific heat capacity is the amount of heat required to raise 1 gram of a substance 1 degree Celsius. So let's get into our example problem. How much energy is required to turn 40 grams of ice at negative 40 degrees Celsius into steam at 150 degrees Celsius? So the reason why this is an extra special fun problem is because we're going to go through multiple phase changes and multiple changes in temperature. So I have our equations down here on the left. What I do not have is the heats of fusion, heats of vaporization, and the specific heat capacities that we're going to be using. So if you have an equation sheet with those constants on it, I would get that out. So our first step in this problem is that we are going to bring our ice from negative 40 degrees Celsius to 0 degrees Celsius, because that is the freezing point of ice. So we are going to heat the ice, and because we are changing our temperature, we are going to use the change in temperature equation. So I've set up that equation, mass times the specific heat capacity of ice, and then our change in temperature, and we are going to get 3,344 joules. So that is the amount of energy required to heat our mass from negative 40 degrees Celsius to 0 degrees Celsius. And now that we are at 0 degrees Celsius, we can bring our ice to water with a phase change. And since we are melting, we are going to use the heat of fusion equation. So using that equation, we are going to multiply the heat of fusion of water by the mass, and we are going to get 13,360 joules, and that is the energy required for that phase change. Next, we are going to heat the water from 0 degrees to 100 degrees Celsius, because that is the boiling point of water. So to do this, we are going to use the mass times specific heat capacity times delta T equation again, and we are going to get 16,720 joules if you multiply those numbers out. However, now that we are in water instead of in ice, we are going to be using the specific heat capacity of water, not ice. So that is something to note, that the specific heat capacity changes depending on the phase that you're in of water. Because in different phases, it's going to require different amounts of energy to raise 1 gram of the substance 1 degree Celsius in temperature. So when we multiply those numbers out, we get 16,720 joules. Now our next step is we are going to boil that water to steam, because we're now at the boiling point. And to do that, we are going to use the boiling and condensing equation with the heat of vaporization. And we have the heat of vaporization and the mass, so we will get 90,240 joules. So now we have one final step. We are at steam at 100 degrees Celsius, but we now want to take it to 150 degrees Celsius. So we are going to use our change in temperature equation. So if we do that, we now are going to use the specific heat capacity of steam, not water, and our delta T, 150 minus 100 degrees Celsius, and we are going to get 4,000 joules for our amount of energy required to raise this temperature. Now we are going to combine all of the energies to get the total amount of energy needed to turn 40 grams of ice, starting at negative 40 degrees Celsius, into steam at 150 degrees Celsius. And that is what this problem is all about. So if we add them all together, we get that the amount of heat required is 127,664 joules. And that ends our example problem. So that combines a lot of concepts of phase changes and changing temperatures into one giant problem that I hope will summarize the topic for you and give you a better understanding of this concept. I hope you enjoyed this week's video. Let me know what you think of this new way of me explaining topics, if you like the lecture type videos better, or if you like these quick bullet point example videos more. I will hopefully be back with more videos soon, and I will continue on in this thermochem unit until we kind of just get the basics down. But if you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. And good luck with learning the rest of your chemistry.